Hello everyone, it's Theme Park Avenue, I'm Eric. I don't know about you, but I believe a theme park is only as good as its roller coasters. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but nonetheless, roller coasters are my personal favorite part of a theme park experience. Whether grand in scale, impressive in theming, super intense, or just plain fun, roller coasters of all sorts are awesome. And there are certain theme parks in the US that have great collections with several fantastic roller coasters in a variety of different categories. And in this video, I am ranking the top 10 best theme parks for roller coasters in the United States. Now, a few caveats. First off, I have been to some parks outside the US, but not many of them, and none of them are quite as good as the best US parks in terms of roller coasters alone. I have been to every major theme park in the US that I think would be a contender, so I think I am qualified to make this list. However, it is not at all objective. It is entirely my personal opinion, just based on which coasters I like, which I don't, and based on my experiences there, and I have not been to all of these parks extremely recently. Some were 2-3 years ago, and as a result, there will be discrepancies between new coasters, removed coasters, and I'll be sure to talk about the park's current lineups when I get to them. Now before we jump in, let's set some criteria, talk about what makes a great roller coaster lineup. I don't think any of these parks have all of the criteria down perfectly, but most of them have quite a few down very well. One important one that did lead to a lot of parks not really making the list or coming that close is the quantity of rides. Every park on this list has at least 9 roller coasters, and excellent parks such as Holiday World and Islands of Adventure have 3 or 4 excellent roller coasters, but their total lineup is only 4 or 5. So unfortunately, they just didn't have the depth or enough rides to really make the list. Another important thing is having great top-tier standout roller coasters, but that is not a necessity, because if you have a strong supporting lineup of roller coasters backing up a pretty good number one, that is sometimes better than having a few very strong rides at the top. And that's why I want to talk about one honorable mention, King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. King's Dominion is number 11 on this list. And honestly, with Rapterra opening soon, this could be in the top 10 for sure. The biggest trick it has up its sleeve is its top 3, with Pantherian, formerly Intimidator 305, Twisted Timbers, and Dominator being fantastic roller coasters. 2 of them are in the lower part of my top 25 roller coasters I've ever done, and one of them is just plain fun. However, beyond that, the supporting roller coaster lineup is just not as strong as most of the others on this list. And for that reason, while I do think it's a very close call, and maybe if I did this ranking on a different day, I would think, oh yeah, King's Dominion is definitely in the top 10. For now, it is staying at number 11 due to sort of dropping off after the great top 3, soon to be great top 4. And with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the top 10 US theme parks for roller coasters. Number 10 is Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Dollywood is one of my absolute favorite parks, and I wasn't sure if it was going to make the list, but I'm very glad it did. There are 10 total roller coasters. Let's talk about the different sort of categories of them. You have 2 very gentle roller coasters, Kiddie Coaster Whistlepunk Chaser, and Dark Ride with 2 drops in it basically, Blazing Fury. These are good for what they are, and they're not the main reason this got top 10. The next 2 rides on the list for me, my 8th and 7th favorites, are 2 that I think are just kind of okay. They have good elements, but they also have bad ones, and while I don't think bad roller coasters bring down lineups a ton, an okay roller coaster like this one, and even a bad roller coaster, the only issue with it on this list is just not bringing up the park as much as it theoretically could. The 2 rides in question here are the Gerstlauer roller coasters, Fire Chaser Express, and Mystery Mine. Fire Chaser Express is a family coaster with a great setting, a strong start, and very fun themed elements. However, I find it primarily to be very oddly paced and janky, so it was not really my favorite coaster in the park. Mystery Mine is significantly weirder at points. with the first outdoor section being baffling in every regard. But the themed elements and the final outdoor section are fantastic. So overall, these two rides have strong enough moments that they are good, but they're not nearly as strong as rides that would be 7th and 8th place at other parks. But fortunately, there are other things about Dollywood that stand out much more. The first key thing is the phenomenal family coasters. Fire Chaser Express is a bit of a dud in this regard, but compared to most family coasters out there, it's still way better. And there are two others that I would say are definitely among the very best family coasters out there. Dragon Flyer is an awesome Vekoma suspended family coaster with a very decent layout that feels very complete, beautiful landscaping, awesome near-miss elements, and a general, very fun experience. But the key here is the king of family coasters, not just at Dollywood, but in general, Big Bear Mountain. I did a whole unscripted video where I just talked about Big Bear Mountain. That's how good this one is. It's simply perfect as far as a family coaster goes. Mild thrills, but perfectly paced with some fun turns, a great setting, onboard audio, and that audio is synced up so well to what goes on. Frankly, the ominous music as you go through the turns, and then the music getting more dramatic as you hit the launch, and it culminates with you hitting the top of the hill, and then the fiddle riff begins again. It's actually one of the most magical moments on any roller coaster I've done. It might sound crazy for someone like me who always talks about the most thrilling rides to be like, wow, this family coaster's a masterpiece. But frankly, it is. It's my number 3 in the park, and not far off from the incredible top 2. That top 2 is the main reason Dollywood made the top 10 for this list. The supporting members of the top 5, Wild Eagle and Tennessee Tornado, are a very graceful scenic ride and very fun intense ride respectively. They're awesome to have. But the top 2 at Dollywood is the second best on the entire list. Number 2 is Thunderhead, one of the best wooden coasters I've ever done. Flawlessly paced, insanely intense, incredible airtime and sense of speed. There's simply nothing wrong with it. And even though it doesn't go out into the woods, its night ride is still a legendary experience. But number 1 for me is Lightning Rod. Now, Lightning Rod is one I've only ridden with the launch. It was still the steel track at that point. I have not done it with the lift hill though, and I imagine that brings it down a little, but it's still already pretty much a top 10 roller coaster in the world. I think I stand by that. And even without the launch going up, you still have one of the most relentless layouts of any roller coaster in the country. So clearly, between this incredible top 2, amazing family coasters, which is an element that doesn't stand out at pretty much any other park in the US, and of course, just having a great, well-rounded collection, Dollywood did make the top 10. Number 9 is Carowinds. This has the same issue as King's Dominion, and it might be a little worse now, thanks to the removal of Nighthawk, which is not something I'm a big fan of. I last visited Carowinds before Nighthawk was gone, and at that point, their top 5 was stacked. The highlight here is Fury 325, which is arguably the best roller coaster ever built. It is not the most intense, but it's 325 feet tall, gives an insane sense of speed, has some of the most unique but very fun elements, and it's not rip your face off crazy, but that makes it a bit more of an accessible thrill, so it's pretty much the perfect headliner attraction for any park, and no other park has a ride quite like it. And beyond that ride, you have the great B&M Hypercoaster Intimidator, the strong, intense B&M Invert Afterburn, the surprisingly underrated Copperhead Strike given how good the first half is. I don't think it's as good as Fury like some say, but it is still a bit underrated as a whole. And then there was Nighthawk, a great Vekoma Flying Dutchman. What an awesome top 5 that is. Definitely better overall than most on this list even, but better than most in the US, including King's Dominion. Now unfortunately, Carowinds does not have the finest supporting lineup. The coasters are very outdated models, in the sense that they were very common back when they were being built, and feel a little unoriginal and uninteresting now. That said, I find most of them underrated. From the Vekoma Boomerang, the Flying Cobras, to the 90s wooden coaster Hurler, to the Aero Looper Carolina Cyclone, to especially the B&M stand-up coaster Vortex. I like all of these rides, I think they're good ones to have, and I find them underrated. So you have at least 9 good roller coasters at Carowinds, and that's pretty great. Now mind you, the family coaster lineup is currently just as unoriginal, but not as underrated. It's very mediocre, and I don't think these are the best rides for the family audience. They fit, but they're just not as fun. But fortunately, the park is getting a family launch coaster this year, so that should help quite a bit. Overall, Carowinds does have a high quantity of good, not great rides, but it is bolstered by that top 5 based on my last visit. It might move down because of the loss of Nighthawk, but for now, it makes 9th place. Number 8 is Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa, Florida. Busch Gardens Tampa almost did not make the list. It's my home park and I've seen plenty of rides come and go, and the current lineup has 9 total coasters, the least on this list. That's mainly due to the removal of Scorpion, my first ever roller coaster, and I have been to the park post-removal, so I have to talk about its current lineup. Mind you, that includes Kumba, which is always not running anymore, and is rumored to be disappearing soon. I pray that's not the case, but we'll get to Kumba later. You have a good kiddie coaster here in Air Grover, but then you have Tigress, the weakest of the major coasters I've talked about so far. I just don't enjoy it very much. Maybe I should give it another chance. I rode Tempesto recently at the sister park Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I loved that one. So maybe I just had bad luck with Tigress in the past. But unfortunately, we only have 7 coasters left to talk about, so they better be really good if this park made 8th place. Fortunately, they are. Phoenix Rising and Cobra's Curse are the 7th and 6th place respectively, and they are among the strongest family coasters out there, or at least that I've done. So fortunately, this is one of the rare parks that does stand out in the family coaster departments, and that does boost it quite a bit. Phoenix Rising is pretty much on par with Dragonflyer, a slight bit weaker for me, and Cobra's Curse is a great, well-themed spinning coaster. Then there's the top 5, another excellent one, but very different from Carowinds. It does have a B&M invert in Montu, which is second best in the park and way better than Afterburn, frankly better than Intimidator as well, so a very good second place in the park. Then you have the B&M dive coaster Sheikra, the excellent B&M looper Kumba, which can be inconsistent with both operations and with jankiness, but at its best, is a super fun and intense ride. And then there's Cheetah Hunt, quite the crowd pleaser that many like a lot more than me, so the fact that it's 5th place for me shows how strong these rides are. But it's the number 1 that truly steals the show, because even though all of these rides are fantastic, Iron Gwazi, the RMC Hyper Coaster, is my favorite roller coaster I've ever been on. I've talked about it many times before, so we will leave it at that. Overall, Busch Gardens Tampa has my favorite roller coaster, and it is supported by an excellent top 5 and great family coasters, making Busch Gardens Tampa one of the best roller coaster lineups in the US overall. Number 7 is Six Flags Over Texas in Arlington, Texas. This is an underrated coaster lineup. Let's start from the top. My favorite coaster is New Texas Giants. It's in my top 25, not by much, but that coaster is quite underrated. I've always found it to be among the RMCs. Many think it's way worse than all the other RMC hybrids out there, but I find its airtime and pacing, even if the second half's a bit slower, to be very fun, and the ride has a rowdiness that a lot of RMCs don't really have due to how smooth they are. The ride's not painful, but it's a blast. And beyond NTG, you have so many great major coasters. Mr. Freeze, Titan, Batman, Shockwave, Runaway Mountain, Runaway Mine Train, Joker, and Aquaman Power Wave, all fantastic in their own ways. Whether they're insanely intense coasters like Titan, super fun, great layouts like Mr. Freeze, an awesome indoor coaster like Runaway Mountain, a super fun and refreshing roller coaster like Aquaman Power Wave. Heck, the worst roller coaster here, as in the major coasters, was the good bobsled coaster La Vibora. That one was removed after my most recent visit, and beyond that one you still have so many more. You have the classic wooden coaster Judge Rice Scream, and the family coasters here are great. I frankly think every coaster I've talked about so far, as well as the great family coaster Pandemonium, which is a spinning coaster, all of those are better than Fire Chaser Express. So that is a pretty high quantity of great rides. I love all of them. The family coasters, technically Runaway Mountain and Runaway Mine Train are family coasters, have some of the most shocking, thrilling moments for any ride of that genre, so it's an even better lineup in a certain way than Busch Gardens Tampa's. And frankly, most of the roller coasters here are underrated. New Texas Giant, Titan, both Runaway roller coasters, Joker, Aquaman Power Wave, even the Pandemonium Spinners. It's such a high quantity of underrated rides, and such a high quantity of good rides. So with so many roller coasters being great and overlooked, this park easily secured a spot in the top 10. Number 6, Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. This was a tough call because Raging Bull, the best roller coaster in the park in my opinion, is easily the worst number 1 on this list. It's still in my top 50, and it's an absolute adventure. I love it as a hypercoaster, but it's just not as good as any number 1 I've named so far, or any number 1 I'll name afterwards. But beyond Raging Bull, you have a total of 10 great thrilling roller coasters. You have the RMC wooden coaster Goliath, with some of the best individual elements of any coaster. The near flawless and massively underrated B&M wing coaster X-Flight. The powerful launch coaster Max Force with one of the best zero-G rolls out there. The great flying coaster Superman Ultimate Flight. The original and best version of the Batman the Ride B&M inverts. The extremely large and super fun American Eagle wooden coaster. The very well-paced Viper wooden coaster. The Intamin Impulse Coaster Flash Vertical Velocity. And you have the Joker, which is the same as the one at Over Texas, but I do find that model very underrated due to how intense and variable the ride experience can be, given the free spinning. So yeah, 10 great thrilling coasters. That might be the most of any on the list, based on my cutoff of what I consider to be truly great. It's a very impressive bar, and the fact that you can do 10 roller coasters here and have a great time on all of them, that is a pretty good start. In terms of family coasters, the park's not bad. You have the superior version of the Dark Knight Wild Mouse coaster due to the great indoor theming, and the classic Whizzer. Whizzer is an icon at the park, and I'm very happy it's there, helping this family coaster lineup excel compared to a good amount of other ones in the Six Flags chain. Now mind you, I do think Demon is a bit of a dud here. It's well themed, but as an Aero Looper, I do find it to be one of the more painful ones, so I don't love it. However, I have one last compliment for the lineup, and that is the two kiddie coasters. Sprocket Rockets and Little Dipper are very small rides, but very different from each other, and excellent introductions to roller coasters for the youngest kids. So you can build your way up very well here. Start with the good kiddie coasters, then ride Whizzer, and then ride any of the fantastic thrilling coasters here. They currently have 10 excellent ones, as I already said, and they're making another in Wrath of Rakshasa, a B&M dive coaster coming this year. So the lineup's only getting better, and in 2025, I think 11 great roller coasters is too hard to pass up, even if none of them are the very best in the world. Number 5 is Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Fanboys rejoice! While I know I am not the biggest Hershey Park fanboy, I do think Hershey Park is one of the best parks in the country, and its coaster lineup is the most well-rounded one yet, even compared to Over Texas. A key thing here is the top rides. Wildcats Revenge is my third favorite roller coaster I've ever done. I like it even more than Fury 325. So it's pretty close to Iron Gwazi, frankly. I was blown away by it. The rest of the top 5 is also fantastic. Candymonium is an excellent B&M hyper, hated by many, including the big fans of Hershey Park, but I think it's fantastic. Excellent floater airtime, an open experience, simply a blast the whole way through. Third best is Storm Runner, a fantastic launch coaster that's probably one of the best launch coasters in the nation, frankly. Fahrenheit, a unique roller coaster from manufacturer Intamin, and then you have Skyrush, which certainly exists. Skyrush rounds it out. Many think it's the best coaster at the park, and I think the fact that a lot of people really love Skyrush is the reason why a lot of people would put this park a lot higher. but I still think the lineup is fantastic, even with Skyrush just being a great but not top tier coaster for me. And fortunately, Hershey Park's lineup does not even come close to stopping there. The supporting coasters, such as the B&M Invert Great Bear, the underrated wooden coaster Lightning Racer, and the awesome Vekoma Boomerang Jolly Rancher Remix, are great, so you have 8 excellent thrilling coasters here. And then the family coaster lineup starts out quite strong, if you count Super Duper Looper and Comet as family coasters. Super Duper Looper is a great introduction to the inversion, with the one great loop, and otherwise very fun, scenic layout. And then Comet is a more gentle classic wooden coaster, but no doubt a blast. The biggest duds in this lineup, though, are the other more proper family coasters. The spinning coaster Laugh Track does not have enough spinning for it to be a particularly fun experience. Trailblazer is maybe the worst of the Aero Mine Trains I've done, and Wild Mouse is a Wild Mouse, and not a great Wild Mouse either. But fortunately, those good 2 family coasters do balance it out, and the 8 excellent thrilling coasters featuring a very strong top 5, and especially a very strong top 1, secured Hershey Park a top 5 spot that I think it could move up in the near future. Number 4 is Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. Magic Mountain is a tough one. I find many of its coasters overrated. In fact, when I visited the park in March 2022, Batman the Ride was my 4th favorite roller coaster there. This was pre-Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, which I'm quite certain would have taken the 3rd or 4th spot. But still, with the similar Great Bear at Hershey Park being 6th place, and Great America's Batman the Ride even being 6th place, this doesn't look like a great start. But there are 3 factors that secured Six Flags Magic Mountain a very high spot on the list. First, the quantity of major rides. Let me just read off a description of the main roller coasters you can experience at this park. You have a dueling RMC hybrid coaster, a custom B&M flying coaster, the only Aero 4th dimension coaster in existence, 2 Premier Rise launch coasters, one with a record-breaking loop, and one that races, a hyper coaster with a 255-foot drop, a GCI wooden coaster, a 415-foot tall coaster that goes 100 miles per hour and is currently the tallest on Earth, a B&M stand-up coaster, a B&M floorless coaster, a B&M invert, an aerodynamics looping coaster, and an RMC single rail. That probably sounded like a collection from 2 or 3 parks combined. So just based off of saying those things, it's pretty hard to argue against Magic Mountain having a high spot, unless every single one of those rides somehow sucked. And luckily, they don't. I should note, I find X2 overrated and quite far from best in the park. For me, while it is a great ride with the first half being stellar, the second half is less interesting, and the last third is very painful. The ride is top 100, maybe top 75. But the second big pro for the park is the 2 coasters I like a lot more than it, Twisted Colossus and Tatsu. Twisted Colossus is my 4th favorite RMC hybrid, and is comfortably in my top 10 roller coasters. Even without the dueling, it does everything right. And then Tatsu, while not necessarily the highest ranking of the number 2s in the list, is a pretty much perfect ride, with the beautiful terrain usage, graceful elements, and wildly intense moments like the pretzel loop. And now for the 3rd big benefit of Magic Mountain's lineup that helps secure the spot in 4th place: the intensity. I believe that even if this lineup is not the best, it is the most thrilling of any roller coaster lineup. This is the only park to ever give me a headache. And in a way, the lineup's very cohesive in that regard. Just off the top of my head, because my head hurts from riding the coasters, there are very intense coasters such as X2, Goliath, Viper, Riddler's Revenge, and frankly, even ones that I think are just really good for their speed, provide insane intensity. Batman the Ride inverts are underrated in their intensity. Tatsu has the pretzel loop, which is one of the most intense moments of any coaster. And even Twisted Colossus and Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, based on the clone Jersey Devil coaster, more on that one later. Just all of these coasters are insane in how brutal their forces are. And if that's what you like most, this is the best lineup, no doubt. I prefer a bit more of a balance, that's why I've shouted out so many family coasters throughout the list, but the sheer extreme nature of this lineup makes it one of the very best, and worthy of number 1 for many theme park goers. Number 3 is Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, the single toughest one to place. It was comfortably in top 3, third place in fact, I was quite certain, for a very long while. But unfortunately, a certain recent event makes third place harder to justify. Kingda Ka, for those who don't know, was the tallest roller coaster in the world and the fastest roller coaster in the US for many, many years, ever since 2007. Unfortunately, the roller coaster was demolished earlier this year. It closed for good at the end of last season, and I last went to the park well before that, so it's hard for me to separate the park from that so far. But Kingda Ka was by far the star of the park. I can't believe it's gone, but Kingda Ka was simply perfect. The single biggest adrenaline rush of any coaster I've done. That speed is felt the whole way through. The build-up and the intensity as you approach the main hill is awesome. The quick view from the top, great. Even though the whole ride experience is well under a minute, it feels so much longer. And no one will ever feel it again, unfortunately. But Kingda Ka was definitely the star. Without it, I think this park may move down to 5th place. I struggle to judge it now, but let's talk about reasons why it still might be 3rd. The key thing is, the next 7 roller coasters in the lineup are stacked. El Toro is the next best in the park. It's another kind of like X2 for me, though I do think it's a lot better than X2, because the first 3 elements are among the very best of any coaster, maybe the best opening of any coaster of all time. Then you have the underrated single rail Jersey Devil coaster, you have the awesome B&M Hyper Nitro, one of the best floorless coasters in Medusa, Superman Ultimate Flight, Batman the Ride, and the Joker. I love all of these. And when Kingda Ka was still around, Batman the Ride was 7th place in the park, by far the lowest placement for a B&M invert, which speaks volumes to how great the top half of the lineup is. Beyond that, family coasters are decently strong. Dark Knight Coaster, Skull Mountain, and Runaway Mine Train are all fun. I didn't like Green Lantern, their B&M stand-up, but that one's gone too, so that's nice. And Flash Vertical Velocity is coming this year. It's just opening very soon actually, the previews have begun, and I think it'll definitely be top 5. It looks like an awesome launch coaster. The park simply has so many great coasters, and while it's a shame it lost its best, and maybe it should be number 5 on the list right now, with Kingda Ka, this was easily the best of the Legacy Six Flags Park coaster lineups. Number 2 is Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. A big step above the previous 3 entries. Admittedly, the supporting lineup is not the finest, but there is a pretty high quantity of good rides. You have the indoor launch coaster Flight of Fear, which is number 4 at Kings Dominion pre-Rapterra. You have the inverted boomerang coaster in Vertigo. You have the great dueling coaster Racer, an awesome classic Woody. While this is not quite Great America supporting lineup, it's all very good. And family coasters like Backlot Stunt Coaster and Adventure Express are awesome, with Adventure Express being the second best mine train to Runaway Mine Train at Over Texas. It's awesome. And there's another coaster that's kind of in the middle of family and thrill, that being the Bat. The Bat's an awesome aero suspended coaster. So frankly, this stuff is way better than the supporting lineup of something like Carowinds. And that's a good start. But it's the top 5 that's key here. Starting from the best, Mystic Timbers is the most underrated roller coaster ever because of how overrated it has become for many people. Okay, maybe it's not the most underrated, but so many call it overrated now, and many say Kings Island lacks a standout roller coaster, but for me, this is a top 3 wooden coaster I've ever done. It's pretty much perfect in every regard. It's better than Thunderhead in all ways, including having a better setting. It's basically the ultimate GCI, and it's very close to my top 10 roller coasters, period. Then you have Diamondback and Orion, a B&M Hyper and Giga respectively. A crazy 1-2 punch in that regard, with each ride of very different strengths, but both being very close to each other in quality. Then you have Banshee, the best inverted coaster of all of these, way better than the Batman the Ride ones I've talked about, and it's 4th best in the park. And then there's the Beast, a hard one to really talk about, but it's a masterpiece. It's a classic at the park, and its second half is one of the most insane moments of any roller coaster I've ever done. Absolute legend, and all of these roller coasters are in my top 50. So that's pretty insane. This top 5 is way better than anything I've talked about so far, and the supporting coasters are strong enough to make this a very, very difficult lineup to beat. That said, number 1 is Cedar Point. Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio is always the king. I last went pre-Wild Mouse but post-Top Thrill Dragster closing, and that was probably the worst possible time. The loss of Top Thrill is felt, but the ride is coming back in the form of Top Thrill 2. It was open for 12 days last year. Hopefully they get that closer to 20 or so this year. And they're making the new Vekoma tilt coaster, Siren's Curse. So the park has potential to become a very obvious number 1. But even without Top Thrill, Cedar Point was the winner. The top 2 roller coasters here is the best on the list by far. Dollywoods are both in my top 25, but here, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point is my second favorite roller coaster. It is right below Iron Gwazi. They were duking it out for quite a while, and it's insane how good this one is. In terms of airtime, this might be the best roller coaster in existence. And Millennium Force is my number 5. The ride does have a bit of sentimental value perhaps, but every time I go back on it, it's just the perfect experience with a sense of speed even better than Fury 325. And being just one spot below it in my rankings. Then there's Maverick, the 3rd best coaster in the park, the 2nd best launch coaster I've ever done, even better than King Decal was, and it's very close to my top 10 as a result. That said, this top 3 is not the only thing the park has. This top 3 is very easily the best in the world, or at least the best I've done. It's really not a contest. And the top 5 is rounded out with Gatekeeper, which is on par with Banshee, and the B&M Invert Raptor, which is not that close to the Beast, but the top 5 does overall win for the top heavy parts. The park does have other good coasters. Valraven is a very overhated dive coaster, though admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of Magnum XL 200 or Rougarou. Rougarou is a floorless coaster that is a very rough second half, and Magnum XL can be great, but is very inconsistent with the experience. Most rides are very painful on it. So admittedly, Cedar Point's thrill coasters are great at the top, not as strong in the lower tiers, compared to things like Six Flags Great America, and maybe even Hershey Park. That said, there is one more thing to talk about. The family coaster lineup is unique here. Pre-Wild Mouse, they were classics, but good. You had the great racing coaster Gemini, that many say is top 5 in the park, people love the ride. The Aero Suspended Coaster Iron Dragon, the fun Cedar Creek Mine Ride, the classic wooden coaster Blue Streak. It's all great. Cedar Point has one of the largest coaster counts of any park, and that count is gonna get added by 2 this year, thanks to Top Thrill 2 and Siren's Curse. Once those open, it's game over. But even without them, with 2 rides in my top 5 out of nearly 400 roller coasters, Cedar Point earned its title as the roller coaster capital of the world, and at the very least, it is the best roller coaster park in the United States. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment down below your favorite parks for roller coasters and why you love them so much. Subscribe for more theme park videos. I have a very good one coming very soon that I know you'll love. I'll see you next time.